Good morning. My name is Ram. I have the pleasure of being the moderator for the first panel of the day. Having heard the two presentations here, I think the panel is set for a topic that could actually be the most relevant for us to start the day with as the first panel. We would be talking about how do we revolutionize finance with the digital banking wave in Oman. Without much ado, let me start inviting my panelists. My first panelist for the day, someone that most people in the room would know. I have with me the pleasure of inviting the Chief Operating Officer of NBO, Tariq Atiq. Tariq. My second panelist for the day is the General Manager for IT at Bank Nizwa, Mujahid Al-Zadjali. Mujahid. We also have someone who's heading the digital banking and acquiring from BankDhofar. My third panelist for the day, Ashish. Ashish Gupta. And we have the regional sales lead for Middle East from Backbase, Sara Hoteit. Sara. Well, I'm actually having, Tariq, the first question for you. And this is actually setting the tone, let's say, from a vision of the government and what implications it has for us. So we all know that there is Vision 2040 that's actually having a significant impact in every walk of life that we actually have in Oman, right? So if I was to ask you, how do you see the Vision 2040 actually having an impact on the digital banking initiative? And how do you see that actually having an implication from what customers would be experiencing as we move forward?
Okay, thank you, Ram. First of all, thank you for inviting me. And I don't know whether I should thank you for this very deep and vast question that I will try to answer, because this area actually is too big. So let's see if I can put some things in context and probably touch upon certain areas which have to do with digital banking domain. If we look into the Oman 2040 vision, I think a core component which is embedded very deeply in this whole plan is the ESG standards, the economical, social, and the governance framework. And from that perspective, I think banks have a very important role to complement all the institutions and the customers and whoever we deal with to be a part of this green initiatives and to have a better digital footprint. If you divide our services into retail and corporate, I'm sure that most of us have experienced a significant improvement, whether it is channels or whether it is means through which we can serve our customers, and at the same time, perhaps sell our products to them without the need for them to drive to the bank or spend too much time. But of late, you will see that there has been a significant improvement in investments and initiatives on the wholesale side. And that is the whole transitional banking platforms which are being available by banks. And through this, banks are now engaged to provide digital means for our customers to provide digital means for collection of payments. If you have a telco as your customer, to facilitate his digital initiatives. You offer him a platform through which he can collect his fees and revenues and whatnot. Same thing is with the schools, and there are several examples that we can speak about. Then we also have this framework, again, component of the ESG, which is built within this when we speak about the payments, for example, where the government has introduced the wage protecting system. Knowingly that one of the biggest payment, transaction would be the payroll in a country. So it is again governed and controlled through a wage protecting system, which is looked after from Ministry of Labor, I would say, the workforce. So too many things are happening. And then if we look into ourselves internally, there is a big shift in terms of how we used to manage our operations maybe 10 years ago to how it is now. The introduction of workflows within the banks to process transactions, this by itself is a big proof that banks are moving towards paperless transactions and trying to have things more digitally and be more efficient, and at the same time be in par with the vision of the country. So I think from a retail perspective, corporate, and again internally, we're doing a lot. We are also part of the financial inclusion program, and I think Sanjeev, you touched upon it in your presentation. The whole initiative to onboard children from the day a baby is born and provide a solution or a mean for the parent to actually open a bank account totally digitally is something that is very new and definitely driven by or influenced by, I would say, the ESG standards as well. And I think the bank have been extremely successful in doing this. Everybody opened a significant amount of accounts there. Again, there are all these collaborations with regards to fintech, and in NBO we have hosted last month a hackathon, and it was something that we are also trying to do to give more opportunities for new entrants in the market and maybe see how can we integrate them to the banking sector and all that. I can keep on going because the subject is too big, but I'm going to stop here so that I give time to somebody else.
I think that was a very, very well articulated perspective. In fact, it gives a lot of room for me to ask my next question to Mujahid. Mujahid, I think Tariq's point about there's so much to do, and he touched about every facet of what banks do. From corporate bank to retail bank to what happens internally to what's happening externally. There is so much that needs to be done, and obviously the backbone of all of this is technology. And Mujahid, banks need to be competitive. There are obviously so much resources you have, and there is so much of time that you have. How does one go about prioritizing investments? What would you actually, say is the approach to determining what goes first, what goes next? How do you prioritize investments when there is so much to do, given that we heard what Tariq said?
Yeah, hi, Ram, thanks for the invitation. First of all, we don't have really so many resources and so much time. With this rapid change of digital transformation, it's really very difficult to cope up. But what I would say is the IT investments and the prioritization is always in hand and in alignment with the business strategy, taking into consideration the demands and the customer needs. So this is one area where we work together closely and we decide basically what we need to do and how do we achieve that. The second area is the customer centricity. How do we enhance the customer experience in order to increase the customer engagement? And when we talk about the customer centricity, we're talking about the entire journey, the journey which is at the origination point till the completion point. His journey of visiting the branches, his journey of touching the channels, his journey of the STP, the transactions which are taking place, like Tariq just mentioned on the processes. See, how much time is he taking in completing his transaction? So are we really adding value in his day-to-day activities? Are we bringing simplicity and security in what he is doing and how he is banking with the bank? The third point area is we prioritize our investments based on the future proofing of the solutions. We pick and we invest in solutions which are having a proper roadmap, which has the capabilities to stay, which has the resilience, which are sustainable solutions, which are not the solutions which are there for just 1 or 2 years. The fourth area is the fintech collaboration. We collaborate with fintech companies where we feel that they can bring something which we cannot do it, or we are too busy in doing our banking day-to-day activities, where they are wholly and fully dedicated and working on these 1 or 2 products. The fifth area is the compliance first. I mean, we prioritize the investments based on the regulatory frameworks, what is coming from the regulation. And then, of course, the adoption of cloud. We look at the scalability and the efficiency and the time to market, because business has many initiatives which they want immediately to be rolled out in the market. So for doing this, I mean, of course, we engage with different cloud solutions to bring SaaS, software as a service, or different cloud solutions in the market for them. So these are the couple of areas which we feel like...
That's very interesting, right? So keep the business strategy as your primary driver, keep the customer in mind, make sure you deliver what the customer is seeking, collaborate as much as possible to drive with fintech and actually create a SaaS model that is not going through, let's say, the long journeys that one would go through. I think quite some interesting nuggets of wisdom there, Mujahid. But I'm going to take that part to Ashish, to you, right? Look, I mean, end of the day, I mean, the proof of pudding is in the eating. And no matter how good your digital platform is, it's as good as how you got it implemented. And it's as good as how it is adopted. And you know, it's always a journey that banks go through, and as someone who's actually been in this space and heading the digital banking function, what would you call as the typical challenges that banks face in implementing digital and going through a digital roadmap and getting it executed well, and how can banks typically look to overcome them?
Me?
To Ashish.
Yeah, Ashish.
So I think you rightly said, digital transformation is not a switch on, switch off button, right? It's a journey. And I can tell you for a fact, you know, I've known the panelists here for almost more than a decade. These are technologists, I would call them technologists more than bankers. Okay, so I think digital has transformed. I think Chetan, in your presentation, you said 7 out of 10 people, you know, accept digital. I would say in Oman, if you ask in this room, I think none of these guys, most of these are bankers, would not have visited a branch for a very long time. And I think we should pat ourselves in the back that digital has really, the banking and the digital has really, really transformed over the last 10 decades. So in 2012, when in my earlier organization, I launched mobile banking, we were very skeptical in Oman that would mobile banking really take off. We were amazed by the results. Like in your presentation, every generation, be it whether elder, Gen Z, Gen Y, everyone adopted very well. So all the banks are going through the upskill task of digital transformation. The biggest challenge I would talk that the banks are overcoming right now is the legacy infrastructure. We are closed, typically as banks. We are not open. Now, with the 5 points that I saw in the previous presentation, you know, open banking coming into the country, and you know, AI getting more established, and more fintechs, 40 plus fintechs coming into the country, I think the recipe is on the table. It's just to be eaten and taken for grabs, right? So I think legacy infrastructure issues, we are all as banks getting into the clouds, the top 3 cloud networks that you're getting into the country. And as soon as we adopt this modular-based, microservice-based open architecture, the faster we'll be able to integrate with the fintechs in the country and use the business cases for open banking, banking as a service, embedded finance, and we can expose all our APIs for opening accounts, loans, insurance, investments, mutual funds, just name the product. As you can see in other geographies, these products are sold more by the fintechs in collaboration with the banks, by banks doing it by themselves. So I think this is the opportunity that we all have in the country to be taken up for the grab. The next important thing is, I think Mujahid very clearly said, if you prioritize the list of projects in our bank, which are the ones that take the maximum share. I think we have all seen in our steering committees, the compliance and the regulatory projects, right? And that is what we really fight for. Why aren't the innovation, the digital banking products taking the market space? So I think that is the fundamental DNA of the bank that is causing a lot of laggard in terms of digital innovation. And I think this is again the opportunity where there needs to be a very right balance between the collaboration between the banks and the fintechs. There are a lot of things that the banks cannot do it by themselves, but the fintechs can do it on a much faster scale with a lighter regulation. That's where the smartness of the banks in terms of increasing the ecosystem would come into play. And third, while we talk about upscaling the architecture, I think the most important task is to upscale all of us in the room and continuously reskill to understand half the things that is there on the slide, right? So I think that is going to be a tough challenge for the bankers, and not just for bankers. Like I said, we are technologists. This is a problem we are facing with all the technology companies because people keep on leaving the organizations the good stuff, right? So how do you keep on retaining the good stuff and keep on reskilling them to achieve the heights that you want to achieve? Thank you.
So I guess 15 years back, if you had called, we are technologists, bankers might have taken offense. But I guess now everybody is happy to actually be called as a technologist, yeah, Ashish. But I guess, I think the one point that came across in all the three answers from the panelists' comments was about fintech collaboration, right? And I think, Tariq, you mentioned about it, Mujahid, that was clearly one of your approach to driving this. And you talked about, again, Ashish, about innovation being driven with fintech collaboration. And I'm going to take that question to you, Sara. I mean, you're the real technologists. These guys are bankers who converted themselves to technologists, but you are the real technologists. So I'm going to ask you this question from that standpoint, right? When you actually are a fintech and you actually are bringing in a solution into, a point solution, so to say, that is driving a specific innovation in a bank, the collaboration becomes key, right? I mean, the solution is as good as how well you have collaborated, right? So from your standpoint, how do you see the collaboration driving innovation and how banks are embracing this as part of their journey from what you have seen?
Sure. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. I think we all agree that fintech collaboration is the backbone of innovation. So it will help bank have better customer experience, faster digital transformation, greater agility, right? By tapping into specialized solutions such as AI-driven personalization, such as open banking capabilities. And this will make the bank more into a competitive, comparing to others, and providing a wider services to their customers. That we all agree about. But I think what is important to tackle today is the challenge behind this, right? So we can talk about the fintech, we can talk about fintech will come and go, there will be more and more, but how can we tackle the integration challenge today? And I think you all agree with me on that, right? So from a siloed perspective, from the bank's perspective, they are not designed to enable the new fintech from agility, from openness perspective. And and how do we tackle this? I think is by having, but before that, I think the integration is causing, and we are seeing a lot of problem in the banking sector today, and having a platform in place that can enable that integration, because those platforms today, they are embedded fintech, right? They are already doing those integration with those fintech. So instead of you doing multiple integration and adding those fintech, you can have a partnership with one vendor which already had some of those fintech that are complying with the regulation, with compliance, with all the local flavors. And yeah, I also see a lot of banks today moving into the future, the innovation, but they are not really tackling the main challenge and the main issue. So in conclusion, I think having a platform-driven approach is key today in those innovation, and having a platform that will simplify the integration problem is essential while you are innovating and while you are scaling to innovate faster.
Very interesting, Sara. I mean, we talk about, in the building construction industry, people talk about how do you deliver a building fast track. You actually approach, you take prefab as your ways of doing things, and you're talking about prefabricated, compliant solutions, actually getting on, collaborating with banks actually probably gets things faster and agile.
Instead of reinventing the wheel from the bank side, go faster and easier.
Go faster and agile. Well, I mean, I will be quickly opening up for questions to the audience, but before I did that, I'm going to have one question, and this is the same question I'm going to ask all the panelists. And I'll start with you, Ashish. And the question is this. As we go through the journey, let's say for the next 3 to 5 years, what, if I was to ask you, pick the one most defining trend that banks should actually be wary of or be prepared for, what is that one trend that you would pick? And then I'll go into the other panelists. First with you.
One thing is very, very clear and straightforward. The banks will not have competition only from banks, right? I think that is very clear. And there are a lot of opportunities in the market we are all aware of, but because of maybe whatever issues that the bank had, those opportunities have not been taken for grab. There are segments in the market, there are micro segments. These segments could be youth, these could be students, these could be SMEs, these could be certain large corporates who want some customized solutions done for themselves. I think these segments will really be grabbed with the help of the fintechs, and the banks that will collaborate with these fintechs will have the best architecture to integrate with them and reimagine the business models. Will not have a standard rate card and follow the rate card, but come out with new business models that will not be primarily based on, service fee or the float. I think that's where the game change would happen.
Thank you. Mujahid? What would you pick as the most defining trend that banks should be prepared for?
I think banks need to prepare for the advisory services. I mean, we all are innovating into payments, into STPs, into financing, but the expectations are growing. Customers are expecting that the banks should study us by themselves and should recommend and advise to us what do we need to do. I mean, I'm not talking about just adding one button whereby you can go and buy tickets and all. I'm talking about a proper lifestyle banking. So it's more an advisory to embed the lifestyle banking into their day-to-day life.
Fascinating. Tariq, what would you pick as the most defining trend?
I think being the third one, so I'll probably just add on to what they said because extremely important factors. But a key driver, in my opinion, would be the financial inclusion bit, which is, again, part of the 2040 vision of the country. And this means that banks need to be able to cater to the requirements of baby from the day he or she is born until, until they grow up. And then in every phase of their life have relevant digital and, relevant products for them. That are meaningful to them. And I think in the financial inclusion, we cannot disregard the fact that we are obliged to do a lot on the SME and microfinancing and all that. And obviously, the collaboration with the fintechs, which she touched upon as well. And so that is my say.
So financial inclusion is likely to be
probably going to be a driver, yes.
And it actually also goes back to what Ashish was talking about as micro segments, and so you actually have a very specialized, focused area on what each individual needs.
Yes, definitely.
Interesting. Sara, what would your pick be?
I agree with everyone, but I think there is no single way to define a trend.
None of the above.
We all witness as trends are evolving. Every day you find a new trend. Today you're talking about AI, you're talking about digital transformation, open finance, open banking. Tomorrow you might be talking about, I don't know, quantum computing. Don't ask me about it because I have no idea what is this. But this is changing, right? So I think the challenge is not to predict what's going to be the trend. The challenge is how you become ready to any change that will happen in the future. You're building a house today, right? You want to build a house that will be prepared if there is a storm, if there is real hot, So I want to build the right foundation. During my digital transformation, I think it's important to prepare yourself to become a future-proof bank. So anything that will happen, you will be ready for. But I think there is 3 key areas that I would like to highlight. The customer-centric is very important. So moving from product-centric, that's key. I think the open architecture technology is also really important. Investing in an open platform will really provide you with seamless integration. This is a key challenge we see everywhere in the region and also globally. But I think an interesting topic is how you master your data today, right? All those new tools, AI, they are quite interesting. They are powerful. But if you don't master your data, if you don't feed it properly, they don't have any meaning, right? So I hope you, during your digital transformation, you're preparing yourself to become a future-proof bank.
Be future ready, and ready for the future shock.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Sara. That was a very nice summarization of what's happening. I'm happy to take 2 questions from the audience. I see a hand go up in the end. And can someone give the mic there, please? If you can introduce yourself and ask the question.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Rehan Mohammed. I am the business head for a company called Food Technology based out of DIFC, Dubai. From what I've heard in the last 15, 20 minutes from the banking seniors here, it sounds like music to my ears, with bank coming together, taking the best of fintechs and growing to the next level. My question would be, how comfortable is CBO with this partnership? Would the regulations come into the picture? Would that be a block? Would that be an encouragement? So eventually it comes down to the central bank of every country. So how comfortable would CBO be with this merger, partnership, marriage, whatever you can call them? Because eventually I completely agree with you guys on the stage. Banks have the base, fintechs have the tech. So with the right base and the technology, I believe the world is the limit. So I want to understand how simplified these regulations are. Thank you.
So how would the regulations pan out as we move forward? And we know we have some central bankers in the room as well. But I think it's an interesting question, and I think it's maybe Tariq, you could go first with this. And I guess this question is actually something that comes up in every panel in every country. So it's not unique to Oman. I guess it's a function of how regulators.
Thank you very much. I think you touched upon a very important aspect, which is the regulatory framework for anybody to innovate or collaborate or expand their services. The Central Bank of Oman, my personal view is that they are protective for the banks. And all the initiatives, controls, directions that we receive for them is for the greater good of the banking industry of Oman. They are not a hindrance for us to do something which is right. And anything which has a proper business case and a need and is relevant for that particular time and period, we have always seen them to be encouraging us and in many occasions correcting us as well. So I don't see them to be actually a hindrance, but they're there to protect us. That is my say for this.
Thank you, Tariq. Mujahid?
Just add, I agree with Tariq. They are not hindrances, they are guidelines. If you have a proper data governance structure for while collaborating with the bank in terms of the data resting and in terms of the transit, I'm sure, Central Bank will definitely approve these kind of collaborations. As far as you have a proper data governance strategy.
Thank you. There's a question here. Yeah, we'll give the mic to you. Can someone give the mic here, please? If you can also introduce yourself, ma'am.
Yes, of course. Hi all, my name is Sara Al-Lawati. I'm a basically I'm a section head of financial technology. Who just asked this question? If you can please raise your hand. Yes, I'm from Central Bank of Oman. Oh, okay, I see you. So actually the Central Bank of Oman, so it actually really in line with collaboration and partnership with fintechs and commercial banks. So we have a few policy enablers for financial technology. For example, the Fintech Regulatory Sandbox, which basically fintech startups can live test their products and services. The idea is that it's going to provide them with regulatory exemptions. And then we have the other policy enabler part, which is electronic know your customer, which is essentially digital onboarding, as well as open banking regulatory framework, which has the technical specifications, security, information security, data standards, and all of that. Moreover, so in the aspect of financial technology and the Fintech Regulatory Sandbox, we do essentially encourage commercial banks to actually partner with fintechs because partnerships is all about financial innovation. And moreover, we do understand that regulation kind of hinders innovation. So there is a very delicate balance between balancing innovation and regulation. So what we do with the Fintech Regulatory Sandbox is we aim to kind of follow innovation. So we test the underlying technology, and then we move towards regulating that technology. So it moves towards innovation and then regulation. I hope that's clear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, Chetan, maybe Ram, I can
Yeah, there
add-
is another question there, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. First of all, I'm very thankful for the wonderful session here in the morning with you, Fatah and Al-Zadjali from BankDhofar. In fact, I'm so happy that the first question was, was brought up to discussion, which is on the collaboration with the startups. There are articles that mention that for banks to be successful, they need to create their own innovation hubs. Because when it comes to startups, there is a lot of initiatives out there. First, you start with payment, then you see yourself doing insurance, then you're doing, crowdfunding, and the list goes on. So for you as a strategy, you need to embed it within the organization itself. So my question is, does innovation hubs significant at this moment for embedment as a strategy? And there's a second part for my question. And does the size of the bank matters? Because we're thinking
Brilliant
of
question.
as well.
Thank you for that question. Brilliant. Mujahid, you want to take that?
So the question is, innovation hubs are effective? That's the question, right?
Should innovation hub be part of the banks, should be embedded in the bank strategy itself? And does the size of the bank really matter when it comes to driving innovation?
No, size does not matter. If the bank, even the smaller banks, if they are very innovative, they're aggressive, they incorporate, they build the innovation hubs in their strategy, basically. So size does not matter, really. There are big banks, they don't have innovation hubs. I mean, we have seen many small banks, they carry innovation hubs. There are small digital banks, they have embedded innovation hubs. Innovation hubs, they help the banks. They do the researching part. You do the prototyping. So it really smoothens and moves things seamlessly. I mean, it's always good to have an innovation hub embedded in the bank strategy.
Thank you. Ashish?
Yeah, I think more than the innovation hub, it's a culture of the bank that is very, very important. Like I can say, like for example, around 4 to 5 years before, when the first fintech came into the country, our bank had started giving cards as a service to them on our platform. So I think banks need to be open to fintechs and support them. Innovation hub will obviously foster it, but what is most critical for startups to succeed is the entire ecosystem. There needs to be proper funding in place for the startups. There needs to be support, like you mentioned, from the government, from the regulators, in terms of waiving of certain taxes and stuff. So I think the entire ecosystem should be around, along with the innovation hub.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, if I can actually take a moment to thank again all the panelists for setting the tone for the day. I think it's an extremely interesting discussion we had. And the panelists will be available if should people have questions at the next break. You would be able to talk to them as well. Thank you once again.